Verbal communication in Japan. What is actually a verbal communication? Verbal communication is a communication that takes place orally or through the written words. Verbal communication can be used effectively in speeches, presentations, in discussions, and also in emails. Verbal communication is always used and is also very, very important. While there are studies suggesting that nonverbal communication is more important than verbal communication, it all depends on how both are used and the situation of both. In fact, one cannot exist without the other, because if your nonverbal communication is good, but you can't say or write what you want, the other person will never understand what you are talking about, and they need to understand your exact intentions. Do the Japanese use verbal communication or not? Respect is an important aspect of life in Japan. Serious interest and respect for one's own culture is appreciated because the spoken words can have multiple meanings in Japan. Verbal communication is less important than non-verbal communication. To understand others, the Japanese rely heavily on facial expressions, posture, hand movements, and voice tones. Therefore, verbal communication in Japan is less important and is used less, just for putting your expressions into words. Interrupting someone who is speaking is considered impolite in Japan. This means that many Japanese people prefer to remain silent during a conversation until they have an opportunity to speak and say what they want to say. The Japanese are generally non-confrontational and they rarely directly respond with negative responses such as insults, criticisms, or causing embarrassment to others. So now we can understand that nonverbal and verbal communication both are very important in Japan.
Hello everyone. So in this part of the video I will talk about nonverbal communication in Japan. Nonverbal communication is the act of conveying a thought, feeling, or idea through physical gestures, posture, and facial expressions. To have a good relation with your co-workers or with your business partners in Japan, it is necessary to know some nonverbal communication like body language or giving business cards. It plays an important role in business meetings. Japan is a country which uses a lot of body language, so in this part of the video I will show you some expressions and tell you what it means. So let's begin with greetings. Physical touch in Japan won't give a good impression. Kissing cheek or giving hug can cause people to think differently. They can think that you are closer than friends. Most of all, when you greet someone, you give handshake. That is also applicable in Japan, but people bow to individuals they respect, such as elders, instructors, and high-ranking officials. It is a sign of respect. Second sign that you will confront in Japan is the come here sign. So in Western, you do it with your palm upwards, but in Japan it is downwards. So if you see someone doing this move to you, it means you should go next to him. When someone is not agree with you or if they want to say no as strongly as possible, they do it by crossing one's forearms in the shape of an X, so like this. There is also dress code in Japan. If you have a business meeting, sticking to black, gray or blue with a neutral shirt and tie is very essential. If you wear it, it means that you respect them. Further, for businesswomen, it is more important not to wear a colorful suit, matching separates and high heels because it can cause for problems. Further, is Japan a collectivist society and are very punctual people, so you need to show up in time for meetings. It is rude to come later because it shows that you don't value the time of the group. Another very important nonverbal communication is that after they give you a business card, don't immediately put it in your pocket or wallet. It is recommended that we do it after leaving the room, or you may make the person feel insignificant. Last but not least, another tip I can give you is that Japanese don't like it when you look them in the eye for a long time, so please be aware.
Hi everyone, today we are going to present the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication in America. Specifically, we chose the United States. I'm going to talk about the verbal communication and Marwa is going to talk about the non-verbal communication in the United States. Firstly, in the United States, it is very most likely to speak directly and informally to a person, even if you do not know each other. While in other places, like for example, South Korea, an Asian country, they tend to speak more indirect and formally. The reason why Americans choose to speak directly is because they see everyone on the same level, so there is no speaking or looking down on other people, and they rather want to get to the point instead of rambling. When they speak informally, I mean with slangs, abbreviations, etc. Some abbreviations that are really popular nowadays are ASAP. It means as soon as possible. Then we have BRB. It stands for be right back. Some slangs that are also well known, for example, are capping. It means lying. Another one is slaying. You use this one when you want to compliment someone. So in a phrase, it would sound like you slay in that dress or you are slaying in that outfit. Americans are most likely to use verbal communication instead of nonverbal communication, and they speak mainly at a high volume in public places while expressing themselves in an enthusiastic way. So we can say that they like to speak a lot, but what if they find themselves in a situation where they cannot get a reaction from a person, or when it is too awkward? Certainly, they do not like to be in that uncomfortable situation. And they try to continue the conversation to avoid silence or awkwardness. It is also common that a lot of people are open to each other. They can share their personal lives, make jokes, use a lot of sarcasm, etc. with each other, even if they are not that close. So it is very easy to approach each other at an early stage when communicating and making bonds with each other. In the business world, Americans are not a part of the hierarchy culture. You should still be respectful to each other, but it is not that strict. It is still formal, but lesser than other countries. Colleagues, for example, often call themselves by their first names and can communicate in a comfortable way with each other. They believe in a popular saying, which is "time is money." That is why they like to be straightforward and being to the point, because it leads to trusting each other and efficiency. Well, my part ends here, and I'm going to right now give the words to Marwa to speak about the nonverbal communication in the United States.
When communicating indirectly in America, hand gestures are frequently used by American communicators to highlight or substitute speech, like a thumbs up gesture or a hand wave, which is used as a greeting and may also be used when departing. Communicators' faces can also be used to convey indirect communication. A facial expression can sometimes add context to a gesture. At times, the facial expression conveys a complete message on its own, like smiling. Americans use this expression to accompany a greeting or to suggest happiness, approval, pride, and other positive things. Smiling is appropriate in both formal and informal settings. Smiling is regarded as an essential
component of a friendly greeting. Speaking or listening, American communicators are expected to maintain eye contact with their colleagues. Speakers send the message that what they are saying is worth listening to by maintaining eye contact with their listeners. Avoiding eye contact by looking at the sides of the speaker suggests a lack of interest in what the speaker has to say. Avoiding eye contact by looking up or rolling your eyes indicates that the listener is irritated with the speaker. Any of these methods of avoiding eye contact may irritate the speaker. American communicators are expected to stand or sit up straight rather than hunched over. An erect posture indicates that the communicator is confident and serious, whereas a hunched posture indicates a lack of confidence or motivation. Unless there is a compelling reason to move, American communicators are generally expected to remain still. Pacing back and forth, swiveling in one's seat, tapping one's feet on the floor, and playing with objects like a pen or phone and other forms of fidgeting indicate nervousness and boredom, whereas listeners are expected to remain completely silent when the speaker speaks. Even if the communicator does not intend it, sighing conveys frustration or anger. In formal settings, avoid sighing, which indicates boredom, and don't make any audible noises.
Today I'll be talking a bit about the Polish culture and the do's and don'ts that you have to pay attention to when conducting business meetings or just giving a presentation in general. First, a little bit of an introduction. The Polish culture, according to the Lewis model, is a multi-active culture, which means that it can be sort of compared to Belgian culture, but it also means that they are rather impulsive and can be also a little bit emotional. They are direct and are not afraid to speak their minds. The Polish language is a Slavic language, and they have their own alphabet that is based on Latin alphabet that we use, well, most European countries. The official language of Poland is Polish, of course, and over 97% speaks that language as their mother tongue. When you're greeting people in a business meeting, like you're arriving, it is vital that you make eye contact, of course, and that you shake their hands. You greet everyone separately, so you can go in a room and just say, "Hi, how are you all?" It's not obligated that you give them a small gift or so, but it is of course nice and can score you some extra points with trustworthiness or just being nice in general. Of course, you can't make the gift overly expensive. When you write a letter to someone, you can't address it to the specific person, but you have to address it to the company. This has to do with their business, with the way they do business. So they want to be able to immediately respond to a letter, not that it lays around waiting till the person has finally had a chance to open it, so that you can immediately go on with business and resolve the issue if there is an issue. Polish people are punctual, meaning that if they ask you to be there at 3 p.m., you are there at 3 p.m. However, it can sometimes happen that when you've agreed to meet with a manager, that they arrive a couple minutes late. This is just, their culture. They have a strong hierarchy, meaning that everyone has a rank and you're expected to pay respect to the person above you. We'll come back to this later. Something that you really have to pay attention to is that they conduct business more slowly over there, so you don't immediately go straight to the deal. No, you talk a bit, you have some small talk, you get to know each other, and usually they also try to find out in multiple meetings if you are trustworthy or not. These are usually done with lower or middle managers, people that do not have the authority to make decisions, but rather to make sure you're not wasting someone's time, someone very high up like the CEO. As I said before, the Polish people love to speak direct, but they know they can do it more diplomatically, meaning that they won't say something to immediately offend you. The slower business pace, yes, as I mentioned before, it also means that you will have multiple meetings before you can conduct a deal, like you have a deal. You should really not rush them, because that will be seen as an insult, and then you might as well just, go back home. When you're making a presentation, you should include graphs or figures or just anything to support what you're saying, and you should make it as detailed as possible, but of course not too detailed that you're talking for hours on an end, but that everyone gets what you're meaning. And when you're talking in general, you have to make eye contact with everyone, certainly in presentations, because that's how you keep attention with everyone. Lastly, but certainly not least, the dress code is formal in a business setting, of course. Larger to medium corporations expect you to dress formally, so for a man that would be a darker suit, for the women just something appropriate that is set for business culture. Smaller companies don't necessarily have dress code for their employees or for a potential customer, but they will appreciate it if you have a suit on. So thank you for listening.